The president's been clear from the beginning, as long as his taxes are under audit, he's not going to release them. He's also filled out hundreds of pages in financial disclosure.
I know, but will he tell the IRS not to?
But hold on, Chris, this isn't.
Will he tell the IRS not to release them, though?
We'll have to see what happens on that front. But the president's been clear. This issue's even been litigated. We went through it in 2016. But one of the biggest things that I think people aren't seeing is the fact that the only reason that the Oversight Committee has the ability to request someone's taxes or for the purpose of determining policy, this has nothing to do with whether or not they're going to determine policy. This is all about political partisanship. This is a dangerous, dangerous road. And frankly, Chris, I don't think Congress, particularly not this group of congressmen and women, are smart enough to look through the thousands of pages that I would assume that President Trump's taxes will be. My guess is most of them don't do their own taxes, and I certainly don't trust them to look through the decades of success that the president has and determine anything. He's filled out hundreds of pages in a financial disclosure form, and I think it is a disgusting overreach that they are making when they're not doing this based on policy.
If it seems like the White House's list of excuses for not releasing Trump's tax returns is growing, it's because it is. Here we have some of the greatest hits, like when Sarah Huckabee Sanders says that Trump can't release his tax returns while he's under audit. If only we had some clarification on this issue, like if IRS Commissioner Charles Rettig himself weighed in on whether an audit would preclude someone from releasing their taxes.
If anybody's tax return is under audit, is there a rule that would prohibit that taxpayer from releasing it?
I think I've answered that question, no.
Now, in fairness, despite the fact that he's been using the same audit line for years, Trump may very well be under audit. The IRS has made it a regular practice to audit presidents since the days of the Nixon administration, after both he and his vice president were embroiled in tax scandals. But again, that hasn't stopped any president in the last 5 decades from releasing theirs. And then, of course, the lie that this issue was already litigated during the 2016 election, that by virtue of winning the presidency by 3 million votes fewer than his opponent, that was somehow a mandate to put the issue of releasing his taxes to rest. And that's moot anyway, considering Trump promised even back then that he would release his tax returns, a promise that, shocker, has yet to materialize.
If I decide to run for office, I'll produce my tax returns, absolutely.
So I'm not quite sure how making a promise and then pretending you didn't is somehow having successfully litigated that issue. But more important than these tired talking points is Sanders' claim that congressional Democrats don't have any legal right to request Trump's tax returns, on which he's mistaken. First of all, Congress has invoked a statute claiming that the Treasury Secretary, quote, shall furnish such committee with any return or return information specified in such request. That's it. Not a lot of wiggle room with the word shall. But beyond that, in terms of a legitimate legislative reason, Congress has a responsibility to oversee the IRS and determine to what extent, if any, the agency is scrutinizing Trump's tax returns. Ways and Means Committee Chairman Neal said the committee is considering legislative proposals and conducting oversight related to our federal tax law, including, but not limited to, the extent to which the IRS audits and enforces the federal tax laws against a president. And Neal's request easily meets the requirement for a legitimate reason for seeking Trump's returns, in that Congress's job is to lend oversight over the executive branch. And honestly, there is something so incredibly ironic about an administration that lies to its own supporters at a rate of 15 times a day, claiming that the other side is too stupid to interpret a tax return. This White House exists solely because of its ability to deal in the art of stupidity. And while they might have had success in gaslighting those on their side who still support this president, it isn't going to work with the rest of the country that clearly knows better.